Welcome to episode 36 of Ring Talk, the weekly YouTube and now podcast Goodwin Boxing show with myself, Martin Theobald, and with Steve Goodwin, head of boxing at Goodwin Boxing. So we're going to start. Is that your right job title? I don't even know. Head of
Goodwin Boxing. So
yeah.
We had a good. Did you watch the boxing at the weekend?
I did. Where do you start? That Lawrence Okoli fight was one of the worst fights I've ever seen.
Do you think? What do you think he should have got disqualified?
Yes, I do.
Do you think if Askin was the away, was the home, was it the other way round?
Yeah. It would not have gone 12 rounds. Would be my view.
If Askin was doing the fouling,
yeah,
he'd have been disqualified.
Yeah.
I do. The thing is, it's hard because you don't want to call the referees anything bad, but I think the pressure of, I don't think they're doing anything. Honestly, I don't think they are. Anybody's dishonest. I think the pressure of knowing it's a Matchroom show with the Matchroom fight with AJ's the manager of Okoli, I think subconsciously makes them behave.
I don't think it's corrupt. I don't think it's anything like that. I just think if the roles were reversed, I think you'd have seen Askin getting chucked out.
I agree.
But it was just horrible to watch.
Do you think that Matty Askin though, and I like Matty because I've met him a few times and I'm friends with his manager, I don't think he did enough either. I know he was being clawed on. But I I just didn't. I feel he just went, and I know that Okoli's awful to watch. He'd done the same with Chamberlain, but I just felt Matty should have done more. I don't know what more he could have done.
I don't think he helped himself that he didn't punch in.
No,
he walked in, and that left himself vulnerable to being wrapped up every single time. But 90% of the blame for me is at Lawrence's.
Totally.
10% at Matty's.
But now there's 2 in 3 fights that Lawrence has done that. I think. I mean, he's not a watchable fighter anymore.
No.
Like, would you? If he was now on telly, and I like as a person, he's a nice guy. I wouldn't want to watch him.
I had this argument with somebody on Twitter, Dean Bedford, I think it was, who's linked to their camp in some way. I think he's close to Dan Aziz, part of Brian Shaughnessy's camp. There's nothing personal against Dean at all, but I tweeted something about it was killing his commercial value as a fighter.
Totally, yeah.
And he said, "Oh, you're talking rubbish. Like he's now got belts, and people like belts." No, they
don't like belts.
They don't. The way that I would word it is, if Anthony Joshua had won 21 of his 22 fights by way of wrapping people up and killing the atmosphere, then Saturday night would not have been an event. It wouldn't be.
There used to be a British, I'll totally contradict. There used to be a British cruiserweight champion, and the name has escaped me. Going back about 6 years, go and have a look at the history books. He was the most awkward, awful cruiserweight to watch. He was British champion with 0 commercial value, and then he lost his title against Leon Williams, right, at York Hall. He won the fight clearly, but the judges had enough of him being British champion, so they gave him the loss. Go watch that history. I can't remember the name, but this guy was so awful to watch, and he's about as awful as Lawrence Okoli has been looking the last 2 or 3 times. And to me, you don't have a commercial value. The only time he looked good was against Luke Watkins, who didn't throw a punch. So it's all right, look good, but as soon as somebody comes out with any intent, Lawrence Okoli just goes to the wrapping.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say in reverse to that is fair play to him for coming out afterwards on Twitter and saying,
totally agree.
I've watched it back and it was bullshit, I think he said.
And do you know what? Fair dues to him for writing that, but it's now twice. Yeah. He said that after the Chamberlain fight. You can't just keep saying that. Stop doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's the second time he did it against Chamberlain.
And actually, I enjoyed Eddie Hearn when they cut to him mid-fight.
Yeah.
And he was saying, "This is like dreadful." He didn't try and sugarcoat it. He just.
I know Matty Askin's asking the board for a rematch. I think number one, nobody would want to see a rematch. But I don't envisage them getting any success at that. I personally don't think the board will step in. They'll just say, "We've got to back the referee's decision." I think I was saying to that, it's like having a penalty that shouldn't have been given and it's given. I think with that, they're just going to have to accept the fact that that's the way it is. But I can't see a rematch being given.
But then what about, I suppose, the Liam Conroy situation with Miles Shinkwin? That was all.
But no, the difference with that though was they were illegal. They were illegal blows that knocked him out. Here, what you've got is illegal blows. The referee's taken action and decided to dock him points. With Liam Conroy, he was knocking all the illegal blows around the back of the head. Referee took no action, and the fight ended on that basis. So here, the referee's made a call. What they're going to have to say is, we don't agree that the referee should have deducted 3 points. He should have disqualified him. You can't. I don't think the board are really. I don't think they behave like that. So in the same way as football, if a referee gives you a yellow card for a horrendous tackle, the FA can't go back and rectify that.
if he doesn't give you anything for it and misses it, then they can go back and.
And I think that's a similar way that the boxing board. I'm not speaking for the boxing board and Robert Smith and everybody because I think they're very fair. I do feel they make the right decisions. I just don't think they will do anything about it.
Yeah.
They might speak to the referee privately, possibly if they feel that it's wrong. But you know. But on the other hand, do I think that Lawrence Okoli should be British champion performing like that? No, I don't. No, I don't. And I think he should have been thrown out. That's my personal opinion. He should have been thrown out.
And there's always a thing people cite when you talk about fighting the champion. You need to rip that belt off them, not cuddle it off them. And that's...
It was shocking. It was awful.
Yeah. But Askin didn't do enough to win it.
And that's the other point as well. So he didn't throw it. When he was comfortable on the inside, he should have been throwing everything he could, but in the end he just fell into the same thing.
I'm just surprised he didn't nut him. Like, he must have been so annoyed in there. I'm amazed he didn't just lose his rag.
No, it was shocking. It was shocking. And then we got obviously David Price. Surely now that's got to be the end. I'm sure they'll wheel him out again. David Price got a right hand. He's going to knock this one out. He's the biggest puncher in heavyweight boxing.
Yeah,
but he doesn't knock him out. He just keeps getting. So really, I feel he should. I think he should. I know at the end of the day, it's his own thing, but you can't keep getting stopped, pull out with an injury, whatever it may be, and carry on. Your marketability goes down. So he should stop, but I'm sure he'll carry on.
I stand by. I would challenge anyone to find a piece of footage where it shows this destructive right hand power of David Price. And it's not me being one of these keyboard warriors.
Audley Harrison, when he fought Audley Harrison.
Okay, so what year was that? 'Cause
yeah, I know. But I'm saying that would be the Audley Harrison punch.
Yeah,
was a really big.
Was that 2011?
Something like that.
So,
but it was Audley as well.
Yeah, but you can't even tell me then that punch is still there if it was 7 years ago.
No.
I'm not doubting he's ever had it, but show me something in the last 5 years that tells me that destructive right hand is still there, or even there at all. I'm not buying it.
But listen, what it's all about boxing, it's about the spin, get people to believe it, get people interested in the fight. And then we've got the AJ fight.
Yeah.
My view on that was again what I said. I said the same thing about the Klitschko fight. How does the referee have Joshua 5-1 up after 6? Oh, sorry, judge 5-1 up after 6. I mean, it's just not. I mean, the others were 4-2. I didn't have that. I had it Povetkin probably slightly ahead. Everybody can be different, but there's no way Joshua won 5 of the first 6 rounds. But unfortunately, that's not good.
Yeah,
that's just not good, is it? But I'm afraid, same as with Klitschko, he was so far ahead, and he wasn't really that far ahead.
Yeah. And
so I think that's just the way that the business model works now. If you fight Anthony Joshua, you're not winning on. You're going to not win on the scorecards, are you?
Yeah. And then on the back of, what did you make of Frank Warren putting out the announcement of Wilder Fury and the contracts being signed on Saturday? I thought it was brilliant. Good on him.
That's the way of him trying to upstage what else is going on. But at least, listen, honestly, I'll only believe the fight's happening on December the 1st.
Right.
Not saying that it won't or there's any other reason, but I hope it is happening. And I hope there isn't an injury that puts one of the fighters out or any of that sort of stuff. But let's hope that it really, really goes ahead. I hope it does for boxing, because it means that Fury will have stood up and actually had the fight, rather than talk about it, and with all this BS that goes around from everybody's department, that the fight really happens. So let's hope it does happen.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on. I was checking a few things that we got. October the 6th.
Yes. So Nicola Adams fights for the interim world title at Leicester.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Great opportunity for. It's not the actual real world title, but it should make the path, hopefully, to get a world title shot before the end of the year.
It's the WBO interim, isn't it?
Yes.
Then who is it that she's fighting?
Milan. Her name's Milan.
Okay.
Milan. You can't dress it up as being anything other than an expected routine win. Yeah, so I think I would expect her to win that, and then hopefully she'll get a crack at the proper world title.
Yeah.
And then we've got a show on at Tottenham, which I'm promoting, but I can't be there, so it's a bit difficult at night.
So Nicola one's up in Leicester, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I've got to go there in case there's any problems or hassles up there. We've got a show at Tottenham where we're going to announce something before I go into that. So go and spin away for that. We're going to do a ticket. We don't do it very often. We're going to do a ticket giveaway, as it's the first time we've ever done a show at the venue.
Yeah, okay, so is that Tottenham Leisure Centre?
Yeah, Tottenham Green, Phillip Lane.
There you go. Yeah, so as it's the first one that's been done there, so what you got to do is retweet this video or podcast, whatever we put it out as, and send an email to alan@goodwinboxing.co.uk. Just say to Alan, I want to be added onto your mailing list, and we are giving 3 pairs of ringside tickets away for random to those that apply. Ringside as well.
Ringside. Make sure you can go, but then so what you've got to do is retweet this, send an email to Alan with your Twitter handle, and then if there's something, we will give you 3 pairs of ringside tickets for Tottenham on the 6th of October if you want to go.
Excellent. So that's not one person gets 3 pairs, it's 3 people.
3 different people get ringside.
Lovely. Right.
And I'll tell you what we'll do 3 ringsides, 1 pair of normal. How about that?
There you go.
So that's 4 sets of tickets.
Alright, excellent. So let's talk about that show then on October the 6th.
So we got 10 fights on, starting off with Brad Pauls.
Yep.
Who we all love.
The Nuki Bomb.
The Nuki Bomb. We love Brad. I think he's 9-0, 6 KOs. He takes on William Warburton, which is...
he won't be added to that KO list unless...
10-0, probably, with 6 KOs. But I'm trying to... Brad now in the next 6 months should be heading towards title contention. So we need to have somebody who's going to stand up to him for the 6 rounds and be competitive. And this is the man we want. We don't need Brad knocking over somebody. We want him to have a really tough night's work, because he's got to learn it. And he's just coming off a 10-round win over Diego Bertin in a Southern Area Eliminator.
That's a great fight.
It's a great fight. But he's since, I think Brad's going to be a lot better in this next fight. So Brad Pauls, who we've got high hopes for in the future, he's on there.
Yeah, and I think the William Warburton one, we said about him last week and what he can bring to a fight, or what sometimes he doesn't bring to a fight. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings for Brad, because quite often you see with some of the journeymen, if a young lad hits quite hard and tries very hard, then they often give him a bit of a warning shot back, don't they? Whereas if the lad goes through the motions a little bit, then they might take it easier on him.
Yeah, that tends to happen.
Whereas with Brad, you know he's not
I think Willie will have a go back, for sure. I think it'll be a really entertaining fight. Fighter I'm really excited about long term is Tom Ansell.
Yes.
I think he's great to watch, he's very entertaining, and brought along at the right pace. So we've got to remember he's another one that hasn't got masses of amateur experience. But Tom Ansell is somebody that I've got really high hopes for. But he's developing. He's having a 6-rounder against Lee Hallett, who's actually taking loads of rounds of fighters and giving them proper tests. So he's going to have a proper test. This isn't going to be a fold-over job. This is going to be a proper fight. So I'm looking forward to that.
What weight is he going longer term?
He's going to go to super lightweight.
Is he? Because he started off around middle, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's coming down. He's now fighting at 10-5 this week.
Yeah.
So next week.
I don't know how he fits 10-5 into that frame. He's got serious length. He's ex-rugby player, isn't he? He's,
but he's really excited to watch. I love watching him.
I know Tony Pill. I was chatting with Tony Pill, his coach, a while back, and he was saying about he was trying to work out of Tom looking for those big shots, which he's got. He said, but you've also got to do some of the more nuanced elements of your boxing. And he was really trying to encourage Tom to build in the other bits that he doesn't necessarily look for, because he knows he's got such power in that right hand. Yeah,
but Lee Hallett is a proper granite chin. He fights every week. He's losing 58-56, 58-57s. He's really pushing people the whole way, so it's a great fight. Nick Parpa's coming back. He's having his 8th pro fight at cruiserweight. Now Nick is somebody that's got a lot of talent, but he's had a few injuries that have affected him so far. So he needs to get a win under his belt and continue his development towards a tilt at the Southern Area title.
He's always fun to watch.
Yeah, he is.
He's got that Tyson-esque.
Yeah.
Bobs his way into space.
Oh, 100%.
And then just throws shots.
I think Nick has got. There's still a lot of improvement to come from him yet. We haven't seen anywhere near the best of him yet, and that's why I want to build him at the right time towards titles. Sean Robinson is a man that's not that far away from titles. Although the fact that Billy Bird lost last weekend means Billy Bird retains the Southern Area title, and he's got a mandatory with Hollywood Josh Povey or whatever his name is. So it means that title's going to be frozen up slightly longer now. If Billy Bird had lost, then Sean, I think, would have been right in the mix for that.
Did you watch that Billy Bird Adam Harper fight on the MTK show? It was a brilliant fight, really good fight.
I watched it.
I thought Adam Harper won it.
So
I agreed with the judges, but it was a really good fight, and fair play to MTK. They
put a good top of the bill on there.
Yeah,
and it was a really good fight. So full credit to him, because it was great. So Sean's going to be going for titles at some point, but he's having a 6-rounder against Jordan Granham. Louie Darlin's returning after 2 years out. He's coming back as heavyweight, so we'll see how that goes. But again, Louis, we've got to see him now because I haven't seen him so long. I want to watch him in the ring and see where we're at.
Yeah.
It's very hard to make any plans when he's been out of the ring for so long. So we'll take a view after the 6th.
I like Louis. He's I've got a personal affection to Louis. He's the first boxer I interviewed, I think.
Yeah,
back a few
he's a
years.
nice guy. Another fight I love to watch, Jack Newham.
Yeah.
He's somebody, in my opinion, that once again is going to be winning titles. He's only a young man, but he's a similar sort of boxer to Tom Ansell in that they just got that excitement about them. You're not going to watch them and think we're going through the routine here. So it's great to see Jack back. Dana Zaxo, he's on. And if you've never watched the Dana Zaxo fight, make sure you go for this competition because it's worth going to Tottenham just to see Dana. That'd be fair.
Even if you're an Arsenal fan, it's worth going to Tottenham
to see Dana Zaxo.
Zaxo.
Now Dana was due to fight on the Joshua undercard, but unfortunately they went the distance, and a Koliaskin was so bad. I don't think they could put a floater on afterwards.
They should have done it just to wake people up.
Well, they didn't. What they said was they were going to put floaters on after that. But they couldn't put a float on because the public was so fed up with that fight they had to go straight into action again. So that's why they literally didn't put the floaters on, because of how bad that fight was. So Dana was due to fight. They get paid anyway, and he went through the routine of doing it, which was great on a big night. But he's now going to be he's going to be in the ring on the 6th of October. So I'm looking forward. I'll be seeing the video when I get home, but I'm looking forward to Dana coming out and making another sensational performance.
And also, do you suspect the frustration of not getting out on the Joshua card may influence his fight that night?
Oh, I don't think you can ever change him, can you? I mean, if you've got to say, you must. Dana Zaxo could well be the highlight of the night. Watching him is just so exciting. Louis Isaacs now training with Glenn McCrory.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So he's been going up North East. He's gone up North East to train with Glenn. He's changed his training team, so that's an interesting development. So I think he's spending a lot of his time up the North East, which does pose a problem for a boxer, which I'll deal with in a second. But so he's out, and he's very excited to watch, because if you've got a fan base in London and you fight in London, but then you relocate to the North East, you tend to lose contact with all your fan base in London. You can, and then you try to develop a base in the North East, but it's a struggle to do the amount of tickets up there. So by doing this, he's got to be careful to make sure he keeps his place in London. But I saw in the press, Glenn McCrory was saying it'd be great to get one in the North East with a fan base, but it's really hard to move to a new area and generate 100 people coming to watch your box. So in reality, that is very difficult.
Do you think it helps having somebody like a Glenn McCrory?
Oh, for sure.
In the same way, for instance, John Harding has a Leon McKenzie, a familiar face to a crossover appeal.
I think it does. Glenn McCrory probably more than Leon, because Glenn's been on Sky Sports.
Yeah.
So I think definitely that will help him, and that may help him up in the North East to sell. But it's something we'll have to look at, because I've got no problem with him fighting up in the North East. But we need to make sure that we don't ever fight and get the fights cancelled by the promoters because he doesn't do enough tickets.
Yeah. Although Leon was on Sky Sports plenty, of course.
Yeah, no, of course.
back in the Norwich and Palace.
But I'm not sure that transitions to being a coach to a boxer. I'm not sure people will buy tickets to see Leon McKenzie in a corner.
Yeah.
People might buy tickets because Glenn McCrory's doing a corner.
Well, they fought Kelvin Young, didn't they, on Sky Sports as well, Leon?
Yeah.
Shout out to Leon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Glenn's obviously a different level within boxing circles.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to Leon. It's just
no.
What Glenn achieved is huge.
So people would like to see him. Jerome Campbell is one of the Xavier Miller IQ team, which is obviously that gym is flourishing. And he comes out again and he fights Dean Evans, which I think is going to be a good fight. Dean Evans does come to fight, you know that. So Jerome Campbell, and then we've got the debut of Ish O'Connor, which doesn't mean anything to you, I know.
No.
But he's coming down from Norwich. He's fighting Dale Arrowsmith, and a debut is a very important time for anybody. And I know that Ish is really looking forward to this, and I hope he has a really great evening. So we've got a really good card of up and coming talent. So as I say, you've got chances to get free tickets, if nothing else. So this will be the headline of the Get Your Free Tickets for Goodwin show while watching this video.
Brad Paul's, Dana Zaxo, 2 reasons to get down there.
I think so, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd also say you've got people like the Tom Ansell, the world example. Those two. and there was a lot of Jack Newham's, but the Brad Pauls definitely, and Dana Zaxo are great reasons to come to that show. And we're giving away 4 pairs of tickets now, so hopefully a lot of you can, or 4 of you can come. And if you don't win the tickets, maybe just come anyway and buy a ticket at the door.
There you go. Right, so yeah, and as you said earlier, on the same night, Nicola Adams up in Leicester, which is a great card. We discussed it before. Yeah. We mentioned earlier the MTK show from Friday night. we got a face-off between Tey Lynn Jones and Linus. It's on. In the words of other...
But it's really on.
Contract signed, venue
really
announced.
Venue announced, date, everything else. And it's a great fight, and I'm really, really pleased that Tey has signed to fight Linus. He did an interview, Tey, that said something along the lines of, they'd made us an offer before, we turned it down.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen. It really didn't happen. So I don't know what he's been told, but that wasn't happening. And there was a time when obviously Linus was fighting on a Haymaker show, so at that point we couldn't do it. So the first time that and what you've got to remember is to get this fight agreed, now we'll say this now, we asked for this fight in August to Lee Eaton, it was rejected. So the fight was turned down, didn't want it. So please, so if you're going to spout, Tey, and I like you, but if you're going to spout rubbish, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to tell the truth. I wasn't going to say it. We offered Lee the fight in August, it was rejected. So we had to get Linus into the mandatory position.
Yeah.
Linus got into the mandatory position, and then Tey took a British Eliminator fight. We then moved to the board and said, you're going to have to strip him, he can't do this. Because they'd made out there was a fight with Felix Cash, which hadn't been signed, to try and avoid Linus, then arranged a British title eliminator. So in the end, it was a question of Tey could have still vacated, but to go on camera and say it as if Linus Udofia has been avoiding this fight is the biggest bullshit, total bullshit that I've ever heard. It was, we were talking about, when we originally did a thing about this, I said that I really fancied the Linus Tey fight about 10 months ago. We wasn't saying we were doing it then, because Linus had to get to the experience of getting to the fights and the hard fights and everything else. But it was a fight we were going to make. But when we tried to make it, it was like Roadrunner. And then all of a sudden, they've done the about turn, full credit to him. But all I'm saying is there's no disrespect to him. Please don't say nonsense when we know the actual truth. And if you do want to see the text messages, got them. So, but the point is now the fight's made. But please stop the nonsense about anybody avoiding everybody.
Let's move forward.
We move forward. Both fighters we end that now. Both fighters have took the fight. Both fighters are going to do the fight. It's going to be an amazing night on the 1st of December. And I've got massive respect for Tey, and I've got massive respect for Linus. But I think Linus wins quite easily, and I think he will stop Tey Lynn Jones. But I think Tey Lynn Jones will put up one hell of a fight before he gets stopped. That's my view of the fight.
What makes it particularly fascinating for me is that Tey has better names on his record. People with better records on his record.
100%.
You know, he's won the title, he's defended the title, he's fought Nick Gemman. It didn't work out for him that night, but fair one, he took the fight.
Tey has fought at a higher level as a pro than Linus Udofia, and I think that's very, very true.
Yeah.
But the key that we're doing is when Tey was moved up a level, he got beat, right? So he lost. My management skills are that when I move my fighters up a level, they win. And I think on the 1st of December, we will show that I move my fighters into the fight at the right time when they're going to win.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But Tey has a better resume, technically on the books, but he has a loss on the resume against somebody. Linus has dealt with everybody quite comfortably overall. He said, and I tell you, that kid he fought on Eric Nwankwo, who's only got a one-on-one. Like I know Linus took the Tey took the P out of that, but Eric Nwankwo was like an international virgin on the Olympics as an amateur.
And he was the one who took out William Webber, wasn't he?
So that's not an easy fight. So ignore the one-on-one. His amateur record was something like 84-10 or something. So let's be real. That fight is a lot more credible than anybody would assume. And so I think it's going to be a great fight, but the most important thing, let's concentrate on the fact it's made, not what didn't go on in the past or whatever somebody's told somebody. The bottom line is, it's now on, they both took it, and full credit to both of them for doing it.
I enjoyed, I was watching the IFL stream on Friday night, and then of the MTK show, and suddenly it cut to, we've got Tey and Linus, and then it cut away and it went to an interview with somebody, and I was like, no!
I mean, I've got to say, I watched it. I mean, the filming was a bit filming the ceiling, it wasn't great, was it? It wasn't
as smooth as it normally is.
No, it was as if they brought somebody else in to do it, and it wasn't as good as it was before. I think that's a fair thing to say. But it's good they're giving free content, so it was great. So we got these fights on the 6th. That's great. We've got the Tey Lynn Jones, Linus Udofia. You'll be doing
December the 1st.
You'll be doing a head-to-head. There's a lot more to come from between the two of them.
That's December the 1st, isn't it? At York Hall.
And we've got a new signing to announce.
Yes.
We did this last week. Chris Lawrence, 9-1 super featherweight from Kent. On the back of Anil Massey, who's from Kent, we've now signed another Kent fighter, Chris Lawrence. He's only 23. He's still, in my opinion, hasn't got his full main strength yet. So we'll be developing Chris to Southern Area titles. Not just yet, because we're going to develop him along. So he's out on the 17th of November. And I'm really looking forward to working with him. Him and his family are lovely people, and his trainer, and we're going to work towards titles for him. So I'm delighted.
I got a question on the back of, I don't know if you've read the Danny Flexen interview with Ahara Davis. It was quite interesting.
I haven't read it yet, no.
Fascinating. Anyone out there, have a read of it. It's really good. But Davis talks in there about his upsetting of Liverpool people on the back of some comments he made to Tommy Coyle about the Sun newspaper, blah, blah. But he reveals within this interview about the fact that, in his words, and not mine, don't sue me if it's wrong, but I think Matchroom kind of wanted him to apologise because Liverpool was a very important pocket for them of putting shows on, selling tickets, etc. So please try and make amends by apologising. But maybe think like Matchroom have little hubs of Liverpool, London, Manchester, now Newcastle with Ritson and Kelly. Does that work similarly on a more regional scale with yourself? So what you're saying about getting Kent fighters in, is that something that you then focus on maybe trying to get more Kent fighters in if it's possible? Yeah,
we like to develop in areas. We've got a lot of fighters in West London, which we're aiming for. We've obviously got a lot of fighters in London, so we look for pockets where we think we can develop boxing. And if we've got a little star in that region, to develop everything around him. Because if, from a television perspective, which is obviously where we hope to get them, we want to build specific areas for them.
Yeah.
And build up in that area. We were going to build up in Luton last year with Michael Devine, but then he got injured and pulled out. But Prospere, Linus Udofia, they are Luton boys that we can build shows up in this area around them.
AD Burden's not far.
We've got a few. Curtis Felix is in Northampton. Yep. We've got some good fighters up here to do a show up here, so that's something else we're looking at doing. So yeah, to build up little pockets and then do them in the. But we're not interested in going to an area and promoting other fighters that are not managed by us.
Yeah.
Waste of our time. We only want to promote the fighters that we manage, because there's no point building up somebody else's fighters in an area if we're going to invest in an area.
Yeah, so, makes sense. Yeah. George Fox, Matchroom card.
Yeah, another one. We're delighted to announce George Fox is our next fighter to feature on a Matchroom card. He should get on. He won't be a floater, and he's on the Copper Box undercard, heavyweight 1-0. It just shows again that we work with everybody. Matchroom, we've got one fight with Frank, obviously Nicholas and Frank Warren. We're working with Ultimate Boxer. We work with the Sowlands. We work with David Hay. The objective of us is we work with everybody and try and have good relationships with all the people that we work with. And he's the latest to get on an undercard, and this is what we try and offer our fighters, these opportunities to fight on the bigger shows as well. So it's great for him. He's going to get some exposure on the Copper Box at the end of October. So full credit to him.
You said about the Sowlands. Who wins out of Groves and Smith on Friday? And it is Friday. I'm not getting that wrong. It's in Saudi Arabia or whatever.
I don't want to sound anti-Joe Gallagher, but I think Groves wins because I'm not convinced that Callum Smith is actually improving, and I'm not sure when they get to these major fights that Joe Gallagher is a brilliant trainer for these big fights and he's able to adapt plans. For example, Adam Booth is an amazing trainer at these sort of level, and Joe Gallagher I don't think is necessarily an asset like Adam Booth is. I
had a certain sympathy. He was meant to fight Jürgen Bremer, wasn't he? And Bremer pulled out and he fought that kickbox or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, there's often they take them up and then there's a big leap to world level, which isn't bridged particularly well.
I don't think all the trainers can actually bridge that gap, and I think Adam Booth is an example of one that has.
Yeah. Adam Booth, by the way, if you ever get about an hour and 20 minutes.
Is that the one that he's done with Tris Dixon?
Oh,
is it great?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Well done to Tris Dixon for doing it.
I can't wait. I must say, I've looked at it and it's something I can't wait to listen to.
Yeah, no, it's. Adam Booth's normally quite closed in interviews, but in this, it's an hour and 20 minutes of just him imparting his philosophies, talking about how he builds fighters, talking about the Groves days, the Hay days, and how he's now as an older man bringing through younger men, whereas at the time he was a younger man bringing through people who are almost his peers.
Jimmy's I've met Adam quite a lot of times. He's had fighters on our show. He's a real gentleman to deal with. Yeah. Really decent man. I really like Adam.
Yeah, so but no, if you get the time, an hour and a half or so, Tris Dixon, I think it's My Boxing Stories or something it's called.
I'll have a listen to that.
Definitely worth checking that out. And I used to get bored of Tris Dixon on the Boxing News podcast. It's nothing like that. It's a lot more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's about the end of the points we've got to run through. Now I'm going to go on to the questions, and I'm back to doing it unprepared. A question from Oscar Smith. Question for Steve. Has he already began speaking to the English title holder in regards to Kay Prosper? Or is he going to wait until Kay knocks out Danny Connor?
Right, so what happened was, before we made the Danny Connor fight, I rang up Ryan Rhodes, who manages Sam Ramazan.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I want to make, will you do a voluntary for Sam Ramazan to fight Kay Prosper in London of the English? So I think I said to Ryan, what sort of money would you be looking at? And so he gave me a figure, which was quite high for an off TVs. But I said, yeah, I'll pay you. 2 days later, come back with another £2,000.
Right.
So when I agreed to what they probably didn't think I'd agree to, they then come back to the next day and then wanted more money. So that was just not, so we knew we weren't going to get the fight done.
That's almost like asking for $50 million and then turning it down if someone offers it.
Yeah, although what I've got to say is, when it was slightly different here, because he was giving me his view, so he may have gone to the fighter, who would then change mine. So I don't think Ryan said that he thought was reasonable. I said, yeah, okay, we'll pay, and then they come back with something that was really unreasonable. So yeah, but I agree with the 50 million thing, because we know it's a separate issue. So once that happened, we knew that we had to get Kay in a mandatory position, because they're not going to fight him. So we made the fight with Danny Connor, which was only going to be an eliminator, but we're fortunate that the board have basically upgraded that to a final eliminator. Yeah. So if Kay wins, he gets the fight, and it goes to purse bids. So then we're then not in a position where I've got to negotiate now. So now we can do it by purse bids, which is far, far more suitable for us than having to do a deal. So they may get less than they were going to get before. You never know.
Right, moving on. Rob Brennan. Johnny Garton's getting his British title shot against Gary Corcoran, which we discussed last week. What happened to John O'Donnell? Was he in line for? He was in line for it. Did the Mooka fight not happening completely change the landscape? And what's the plan for John now?
He has no plan, because he pulled out three championship fights in, I think it was 18 months with injuries every time, and it might be 4, but the board then just lost patience with him.
Was that after the Ochieng fight? Or?
Yeah, after the Ochieng. He did the Ochieng, but he then pulled out of, I'm doing this, remember, he pulled out originally, do you remember, on the David Hayes show at the O2 when he was due to fight a Steve Wood fighter and the name's gone, pulled out of that.
Shane Singleton.
So he's pulled out of that one 3 days before. Then pulled out, I think, of the Mucha fight once. Then it all went pear-shaped again, twice.
Mucha pulled out of one.
But Mucha pulled out of fighting Freddie Quit.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember that? So he pulled out of that one. And in the end the board said that's enough. So in reality he's never going to get what he wants out of the sport now, because he's just pulled out too many times. And I'm not saying that for 1 second that he wasn't injured. But sometimes you get injured because of certain things in your life, and I think in the end of the day the board if the board then will say, look, this guy has got, because when I took him on before those 3 pullouts, apparently previously in his previous life in boxing he was renowned for pulling out as well.
Right.
So we knew that when we got him, and the board said, look, he pulls out a lot, and he pulled out 3 fights when I was managing him, and they've had enough then. So he lost his I got him mandatory, lost his mandatory position, everything. So he's never going to regroup from the start again. So you won't ever see John O'Donnell.
Which is a real shame. He's a massive talent, John. Massive talent. Paul Oldtight, if you could pick 2 fighters at the same weight, but any weight, to fight for a world title, who would you pick?
Well,
so, two of your fighters at the same weight, but any weight, for a world title, who would you
I think
pick?
it's very hard for me to say my fighters are going to fight for world titles. Do you not think?
Yeah.
I think it's a really hard thing for me to try and say that my
Nicola Adams.
Yeah, but not the same one. I've only got one of her.
Yeah,
but it's really hard to say I have not got 2 fighters in the same weight division that are going to fight for world titles.
Yeah. All right. Good try, Paul. I'll try again. From Colin at CM Sports Agency, would you look to do a super middleweight version of the Box Cup? I know several in the stable at that weight.
I'd be much rather if there was an ultimate boxer for the super middleweights, because the money is greater and exposure is greater. So with the ultimate boxer, aka prize fighter, being on the scene, makes a lot more sense now when those weight divisions come up to try and get the fighters that I want in that, because they get so much more out of it financially and exposure wise. So at the moment, we would find out what weights are likely to come, and then if we can get our fighters on that, that would make a lot more sense.
So Ben Shalom, if you're watching this, the man who I think runs Ultimate Boxer, go with super middleweights. There's some good opportunities. Right, we'll move on to from Rob Martin, Mayor of Brixton on Twitter. How you doing, Rob? Which of your fighters out of the stable would you say, in your view, will go on and win a world title?
World titles again?
Everyone's ambitious this week.
Right, okay. Let's say which fighters have chances of getting to that level on what they've demonstrated so far. I think that's easier.
Yeah.
Because at heavyweight, you can argue. So I think you obviously got Nicola Adams. At cruiserweight, Deion Jumah.
To clarify, Nicola isn't a heavyweight.
No, she's a super flyweight. She's a flyweight. She's a flyweight. So let's go through it. At cruiserweight, Deion Jumah has shown potential to get to that level. Arfan Iqbal, but at light heavyweight, not at cruiserweight. I know Arfan's a cruiser, but I think at light heavyweight he could.
If Arfan geared himself up
to go light
correctly,
heavyweight, I don't think he can get to world level at cruiserweight. I think he's too small. But I think Deion Jumah potentially has that. Has demonstrated that. So it's British title. You've got to get British titles before, haven't you? It's
I think
really
people underestimate how hard it is to get a British title.
British titles. I believe Fred Bully only got a British title, but it's really hard. I mean, there's so many kids that I've got that are super talented, but we don't know yet because they haven't gone to the British title level.
Yeah.
It's easier to say when you get a Lewis Ritson and he's gone through and passed a few tests. But even now, he's fighting for the European title. You couldn't say he's going to win a world title. What you could say is now, promoted correctly, he could get a crack at a world title.
Yeah.
But I don't think until the last, when he was 9-0 fighting on small halls, you could actually give that out. But I'd say Deion Jumah has got all the amateur credentials and the potential to get there. Lots of others that could potentially get there.
But if someone asked you about Anthony Croller after 15 fights, will this kid ever win a world title?
He lost to Usyk, didn't he?
Yeah. Will this kid ever win a world title? No chance.
But there's a lot of kids here. There's going to be some little jewels in the crown that we've got that are going to go right the way through.
Yeah.
And are going to be winning British titles and competing at that level for sure.
LBC1231 on Twitter. Steve, do any of your fighters use gloves which contain horsehair padding rather than foam padding? And what are the benefits or advantages of using one over the other?
Well, I've no idea. I've no idea. They don't use. They all use the standard gloves that are provided to them by the board. So, as it stands at the moment, Nicola has her own gloves made for her, custom made. But they're still made of padding, so I honestly don't know the difference. I've never been asked, but I will actually find out because I'm intrigued now. I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, so I mean, before a show starts, you'll often see Kevin Campion getting bags and bags and bags of gloves out and making sure there's enough for the welterweights and there's enough upwards. So yeah, you'll see him on a table at the back of York Hall, just making sure that the gloves that are provided are sufficient for what's going on that evening.
But they're all normal padding.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a horsehair pair, but I'm sure they exist, but I will find out.
All right. Question from Thomas Lyons. How does Bellew beat Usyk?
He doesn't.
It's on the back of Johnny Nelson came out and said he outboxes Usyk.
Yeah, but this is Sky
Johnny.
Sky bullshit again, isn't it?
Look, nobody would be happier than...
I'd love to see Tony win.
Yeah.
I'd love Tony Bellew to beat Usyk. I'd love it. But I'm not going to go out, just because you're paid by a TV company to go out and spout shit like that.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. He's an Olympian. Tony Bellew has got the chance of trying to land a punch on him and whatever it may be. But he's never going to outbox Usyk. Never in a million years. But sometimes when they spout this shit, and you just think...
It puts you off. It puts me off. I think I want Bellew to win. Like, I'm not a Brexit boxing fan. I'm not like British or no one, but it'd be a great way for him to sign his career off, to win that fight. I don't think he will. I don't think he has much chance of it. But the more Sky tell me that he outboxes Usyk, I think, oh, for fuck's sake, like...
Puts you off the fight, right? So,
but conversely, Dillian Whyte at the weekend, did you see a little clip of him where he's up with Anna Walhouse, Matt Macklin and someone else, and they ask him about, do you want the Joshua fight? And he stood, it's right up in the rafters of Wembley, And he just seems to lose his shit a little bit. He just starts going on about, yeah, of course I want it, but I don't know why I'm stood up here. I want to be down at rings. Like, there's no point to me being up here. I'll be down at ringside. I don't know why I'm with you. I thought, brilliant. Like, I love Dillian Whyte for his. Like, there's no messing about.
He does say what he thinks, Dillian.
Yeah.
I've had a run-in or two in my time with Dillian.
He's not a man you want to run in with.
No, but he's see, I mean, I like him, but sometimes he's had a pop at me about certain things. But I still like him. I think he's an alright fella. So
he's a lovely brother. The times I've met him, but I'm always like, I've met him 4, 5, 6 times. I'm always surprised how big he is every single time. Like, he's just a massive man.
And to be fair, what's good for him is he's done it the hard way. He's never got silver spooned anything, and he did it all. Came
through the small halls.
Yeah, full credit to him.
Yeah, a lot of time for Dillian. Has Eddie Hearn signed Usyk as a useful tactic to give Joshua another voluntary defence and swerve the Fury Wilder fight? He signed
Usyk because he needs to deliver pay-per-views for the end of the year, and he's trying to do White Chisora, Khan, and he's trying Khan against Brook, and this one. So he needs 2 of the 3 to land. That's one. So now he's only got to do either Khan, Brook, or Chisora White.
But I see the theory of what Thomas is saying in the same way that when Matchroom had access to Luis Ortiz, they boxed him against Dave Allen and Malik Scott out
to keep him out of the way.
Keep him out of the way.
Well, that's all they do for AJ, right? They try and keep anybody that's really dangerous out of the way.
Yeah.
In one way or another. And listen, I'm not even criticising him for it. I called it as a boxing fan, but I think,
it's wise management. Also, can you see Big Baby Miller and the winner of Pulev Fury forcing their way in if they don't ask for an exception?
Money talks, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't see Hughie Fury getting a shot at Joshua for a long time. I might be wrong.
I don't see a lot of people getting a shot at Joshua for a long time. I think you've got to be,
Speaking of which, North Bank Bren. What is the major factor behind Steve believing this, which is your tweet from the other night, which said, I'll say this once, Wilder beats Joshua and the fight will never happen. Why do you believe that?
Why he beats Joshua?
Let's go with why it will never happen.
Okay. If you look at the whole thing around Matchroom boxing, this is my opinion, right? So Eddie took over from Barry. Barry was the creator. Eddie is the better promoter because whilst his dad was full of waffle, Eddie's the king of it, right? In a nice way, he's a good promoter, right? Yeah. So he's a really good promoter. But Barry really knows the business side of it, and even though he's not involved, I know Eddie's at the bottom. I believe at the end of the day, Barry is still. Is going to say.
I think when it comes to the big stuff, I reckon
Barry Hearn has said that the fight should not happen for at least 2 years to build it. He said it.
Yeah.
From a financial perspective, because they want to milk the Joshua train. He said it. So because that's why these fights aren't happening. So the question is, I believe that AJ himself wants. I genuinely believe he wants the Deontay Wilder fight. Genuinely believe it. But there are probably too many people who are benefiting from finding different people for him to fight without the risk of Wilder, because Wilder is the one person out there, through Fury at the moment, because Fury to me has not proved anything yet.
Yep.
He's the one person out there that can derail the train. Joshua is a really good boxer. He's done everything that's been asked of him. He beat Povetkin, full credit to him. So he's not I like Anthony Joshua,
100%.
And I think he's been great for British boxing. So this is not a negative.
And
right?
he doesn't necessarily get the credit he deserves.
But every time you say anything about Anthony Joshua, I get called a hater. I'm not a hater. I'm just a realist. So Joshua, into my opinion, wonderful, very good PR. Does well with fans. He spends time with all the sports. I think he's a wonderful asset to British boxing. However, there is so much money, commercially and otherwise, entwined into him for so many people to make so much money. If they can find a reason to avoid fighting Wilder and supply various reasons as to why that fight doesn't happen, and people continue to buy into that and keep watching him fight Povetkin or Baby Miller or Dillian Whyte or and keep that role going for another couple of years, they can milk it and milk it and milk it and milk it. If he goes in with Deontay and gets chinned, right? If he does and Deontay chins him, then that financial model is derailed. So I think, not from the fact AJ doesn't want to do it, but from the business perspective, they will not want to do it. The question then becomes whether AJ overrides that everybody else that says, I want the fight, get me the fight, and I'm not. So that could happen, and that's the only way it could happen. But I don't believe the fight will happen, because they want to delay it for so long. And as you know in boxing, when you delay a fight for so long, something happens to derail it automatically. So often it never happens. And that's history tells you that when you don't grasp it, Riddick Bowe against
Lennox Lewis.
That was mad. It got derailed for various reasons and never ever happened.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with these fights, I'm afraid.
Yeah. There's a brilliant clip from Radio 5 yesterday morning. I don't know if you heard it. They had Barry Hearn on.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember who the Radio 5 presenter was. And they're talking through it. And then they say, oh, we've got Frank Warren on the line.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and Frank Warren comes on the line as well and starts calling out Barry Hearn on everything that he said, starts calling him an accountant. Barry Hearn gets so pissed off with it. At the end of the interview, the Radio 5 guy says, right, brilliant, well, you know, hopefully we'll have you on again. And Barry Hearn says, I'm never coming back on. He said, this is so unprofessional, trying to make us do commercial talks live on Radio 5. I'll send you a link to it. It's wonderful.
Brilliant. Was it good, was it?
Yeah, it was really interesting because Frank asked those questions, which as a fan, you want to hear asked when there's an IFL interview, when there's any form of interview. And there was no softball in it. It was Frank Warren calling it out. You know, I'm not saying Frank's completely in the right about it by any means, because he's got his own agenda to adhere to.
Of course.
But it was interesting to hear the two of them go head to head.
What do you think? What do you think?
What do I think? I think it's a duck job by Joshua's team. Not by Joshua. I think Joshua would fight any man on the planet. If you gave him a pair of gloves and told him, get in the ring next week, 100% believe Joshua would do it. I don't even think it's necessarily about the money to him. You know, he said, give me 50 million. They were going to offer him 50 million. It never came about. I don't believe that's through Joshua's lack of wanting to take it. I just think there's an awful lot of commercial agreements, so StubHub, Wembley, Sky Sports, that perhaps put blockers up to Anthony packing his bags and going over to America to fight Deontay Wilder. And I think the more and more stories that are laid by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and Barry Hearn, the more you can intertwine things that just confuse everyone. I think if anyone genuinely tried to unpick it all now, you'd never be able to.
No, I think that's fair.
That'd be my take on it all. Final question from Oliver McManus. End it on a nice note. Who's the nicest fighter you've ever worked with?
How many children have you got?
3 plus 1.
Right. Who's the nicest child you got?
None of them. It's all of them, sorry.
It's a really difficult, do you know what I'm saying? It's a difficult question to say the nicest. The one that I always smile about is Jamie Speight.
Yep.
Because he rings me a lot. He's always polite. He's always, I get on really well with him. He's always wishing you, he wishes everybody well. He's got not a bad bone in his body.
Yeah.
And he's just a lovely man. So if I was going to give one thing, it would be to him, but there's so many of them that are really nice. But Jamie Speight is just somebody that I probably speak to a lot more than everybody else, because he just rings me all the time, which is really fine, and we'll chat about anything. And he's just never given me 1 second of trouble, complaining, nothing.
All I ever see is him on Facebook going, get me on that, Steve, get me on that, Steve.
Yeah, he's great. And I love Jamie to bits, he's great. But there's some really nice kids out there I look after. But Jamie would be somebody, and it goes back quite a long way with Jamie now. So we've won the Southern, we've had a lot of history. We've won the Southern Area title, we've fought for an English title on Sky, we've done all the different things. So we've been through quite a lot of turmoil. He's now been a journeyman for a bit, and now he's defending his Southern Area in October. And he's just a really nice man.
Yeah,
so I'll give him a special thing, but it's not to the detriment of anybody else.
What's always surprised me since I got speaking and dealing with boxers more and more is I'd always assume there would be a fair few arseholes in the sport. I assume people that go out there with the mindset of hurting other people, you would have people that outside the ring also have a bit of an arsehole mindset. So few of them. I would say I could name under 5.
5 what? Boxers.
5 boxers, yeah, people that aren't boxers, people that are some managers, some promoters, some other people, coaches.
On the side,
yeah, some of them are right dickheads, frankly, but actual boxers themselves, I could name less than 5 that I haven't liked.
I think it's fair. Most of them are really nice guys, just trying trying to achieve something in the sport, and they're all like, you know, they're just decent people trying to have a go. They're not all decent, and sometimes if they are decent, they start off decent, the sport can make them into somebody that's not so decent. It can turn them. But generally, I think when they start off, they're generally a bunch of really nice people that are just trying their best to make something out of their lives.
And most of them are often very thankful to yourself and to the ones that work with you around the opportunities they get, and you know, making a chance to be a boxer. Yeah,
I can't say any. Genuinely, there are. You get some arseholes. I mean, I manage enough boxers to know there are going. I don't think I've got any arseholes left, to be honest.
Look at the ones you've released. There's probably your arse.
I think,
who you don't like.
They tend to go. The ones I don't like do go in one. They go at some point or other. We tend to sever the relationship. Yeah. But we don't make a big song or dance about it. It just happens quietly.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Jamie Speight to end it.
Got to say that. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. Remember, retweet this or share it on Facebook or however you want to do it, and then send that email to alan@goodwinboxing.co.uk.
And hopefully we'll see you. Well, I won't see you. Are you going to the 6?
I can't remember off the top of my head if I'm going to it or not.
Oh, okay.
But I need to check.
You'll see a lot of the team.
I'll check with the boss.
Yeah.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next week.